By the way, there's some talk that he's not eligible to run for mayor of Chicago because he doesn't actually have a residence in Chicago. I wonder, though, if... I'm thinking in Chicago, somehow there's probably an easy way around that, right?
Why would that make any difference in Chicago? But hey, is there a real issue in anybody's mind that he's stepping down? I mean, as soon as I saw the news, I just thought, man, this guy's getting run out of town.
You think so?
Know? Yeah, I think so. I think that it's just like Michael said. I think he's become so contrary. He's become so divisive. He's become that lightning rod. He's polarizing people, much like Jose was talking about. And I just thought, man, with this election coming up, they're scrambling to do anything to put on a smiley face right before the election. And one of the things would be
so he's not living under his own power, you don't think?
Now, he probably doesn't even know what the qualifications are for mayor of Chicago. I think they just picked a position, and he's talking as if he wants to do it, only because there have been so many people that have stepped down to say, I want to spend more time with my family. And everybody knows his family doesn't want Rahm Emanuel around.
I was going to say, the way you'll know if they fired him is if President Obama goes to Chicago to campaign for him. That's how you'll know that it was probably not a pleasant or happy ending. All right, let me shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about the poll question today, which is about a tragedy. But before we get to that, we've been talking a lot lately, and Jose Menendez, State Representative Jose Menendez, I know this is a real pet issue for you, texting while driving. This is very important to you. Universal City recently banned it within their city limits. But also this week, a study came out, a national study, and it looked at several states that have statewide texting while driving bans. Actually found that in 3 of the 4 states they looked at, the accident rate went up slightly. And they speculate it's because when people know it's illegal, they become more evasive. They lower the phone more, they avert their eyes more, they hide what they're doing more while driving, and that makes it even more unsafe. Is this an example of something that maybe cannot be remedied with one more law?
No, here's the deal. Look, some of us can remember back before there was a seatbelt law. Remember back then. I can remember when they changed the seatbelt law, made it mandatory. My parents hated it. I mean, it was like pulling teeth to get them to put their seatbelt on. But I remember everybody who's a child. I mean, our children, they get in the car. The first thing they do is just like buckle in. It's just second nature. They do it because it's what and they tell you, Dad, put your seatbelt on. If I've forgotten.
Your kids will tell you if you don't
Absolutely.
do it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So here's the deal. If we can make it the law where we don't text and we don't use the phone, hopefully, I have been on cell phone use. It's distracted driving, but conversations on the cell phone are worse because they've proven, the studies show, it's not so much the physical act of holding the phone sometimes or the texting sometimes, it's your mind is somewhere else. And our mind, when it focuses and tries to concentrate on a conversation, will literally block out what you're supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And so you start blocking out the driving part because you're focusing on the conversation, especially if it's a heated conversation, an argument, discussion. There's studies that show that. And your reaction times slow down as much as being drunk and driving.
I'll agree with all of that.
Right.
But can the law reach that?
My point is, and this is where I started, is that if we get young people started before they even start driving to realize that they're not supposed to, I think we've got a chance. It's all about your habits in driving. And so, I see some commercials say, call me, but not while driving. Call me when you get there. We've got to start training people younger. I think the problem is that people realize, let it go to voicemail or just wait till you get where you're going. We've got to not use this thing. Now, technology may help us out. You've got diction applications where you can dictate what the text should be, but you shouldn't be doing that while driving.
All right, Michael and Jimmy, what about this? Is the law the right approach if we can all agree we don't want to have somebody texting while driving and maybe heading right for us in traffic? Is this the best way to do it?
I agree with the representative. However, the city of San Antonio is considering a no texting ban, period, across the city of San Antonio. I think it should be no using the phone, period. Mm-hmm. Like right now, they have an ordinance where you can't use the phone in school zones. Right. Well, that doesn't make sense. You could turn one corner, be on the phone, and then be in a school zone and not know it. I think no cell phone use or any device, period, that can distract you while driving. I think just blanket period around in the city of San Antonio.
Then we
I
can
think it
listen to
can
the
be
show better.
accomplished.
Then we can listen to the show better.
That's correct.
But you can't call the show, so it's a double-edged sword.
Pull
for me.
over.
Yeah.
See,
pull
but it
over.
really-
And they're right. That's right. Pull over.
It really create problems for me because there are a lot of people that'll send me messages like, can I text while I drive? And then I have to get on the phone and start hitting Westlaw to do the research and find
while
the
you're
deal.
driving, yeah.
Researching while driving is, I think, ought to be okay.
Well, and lawyers, I think lawyers should be able to make calls while they're chasing an ambulance. I don't think they should have to pull over because then they might lose the ambulance.
Okay, I asked for that.
But I'm sorry, you set me up for that. I couldn't help it.
It's all about billable
I should've
hours.
seen
for
that,
these
guys.
guys,
I hear what you're saying, and I've had family members who've been in accidents that were caused by distracted drivers on a cell phone. So I have no sympathy for that behavior. But I think these studies are very telling. I think that you can have unintended consequences, and one of them will be, hey, I'm already doing this. You mentioned, Jose, young people. This is the most organic habit for them.
Yeah.
They are welded to that phone and
That's
that
right.
texting.
Yeah.
I don't think the law, if anything changes their outlook or their values about this, I don't think it'll be the law.
But
In fact, you're trying to reach people before they're even old enough to drive and make them feel this way. They're not even going to be subject to that
Here's
law.
the reason why I think it's possible. You're going through driver's ed. When you're going through driver's ed, the thing you want most is that freedom that mom and dad are going to give you when they're going to lend you the keys. When mom and dad say to you, if you get a ticket, if anything happens, you lose the right to drive. I think that's the fear, hopefully. That's worse than the ticket. They don't care about the ticket. It's not being able to drive. Because I think driving is a greater incentive for young people than even texting.
Now, is checking your mail on your phone or sending a text on your phone, is that any worse than putting on makeup or trying to eat or turning your head and talking to the person in the back seat? I mean, there's a lot of driver distractions, and with the coming technology in cars, internet in the dashboard, internet radios, Wi-Fi, 13-inch screens in the dashboard. I mean, aren't cars going to be just chock full of these distractions? They already are, but even more so in the future. What are we going to do? We're going to make a law against all these things?
It shouldn't be long before most of this stuff is going to be controlled by voice anyway. I mean, a lot of my calls now on the iPhone are all voice controlled. I don't dial numbers on anybody, and I do that to keep from having to make those calls. And then you use the Bluetooth or the GPS system, to make the calls.
So
you
voice
don't
activation will be a big
voice activation. I think is going to make a big difference. We should see it shortly. Here's what will make the biggest difference, though, on the texting, is not laws but lawsuits. When people start getting hit in the pocketbook, and it starts costing them a bunch of money, then they're going to change that behavior. And the way texting will be different is that you can actually make a determination when an accident occurs. Like, imagine if I've got, what do I have, that OnStar stuff?
Yeah.
OnStar will determine exactly the moment the accident happened and the airbags are deployed. So I've got that moment down. Then some plaintiff's lawyer who's chasing an ambulance shows up, and what he's going to do is he's going to get my cell phone records, and he matches the time up. Some jury's going to give him several $1 million for me rear-ending somebody, and then I'm going to take the phone out of the car altogether. That'll put a stop to it.
I agree with you on that. And in fact, I like that. Of all the enforcement tactics, I like that one the best of all. Because if somebody's accident really is the result of using one of these devices or one of these functions that's built into the car, there will be black box data that will absolutely pinpoint the moment of the accident versus the moment of usage, and then you have the person. But I don't know. I still, my jury is out on the idea that this is within the reach of one more law.
But hold on. How many times do we hear, why did it take a tragedy for someone to address this issue? How many times do we hear,
Right.
Tragedy
why
becomes
did
policy.
you, why
Yeah.
did you have to react? Why couldn't you be proactive?
Active.
So therefore, those, I mean, it's strange. I mean, you beat up elected officials because they're always reactive and not proactive. So now we try to be a little proactive. You're like, no, don't do that. Well, which way do you want it? I mean, you want to be proactive, reactive. I agree that people are going to learn tough lessons that way, but I'd rather not have that tragic accident where someone gets hurt, if possible. If I can help reduce the number of people doing it, then the highways will be a little bit safer. There are 500,000 people moving to Texas every single year. 500,000 new drivers on our roads. We're not increasing the number of miles. I mean, so it's like congestion's getting worse.